Okay, are you ready? This end. Okay, well, we've had a good break, and we're just now going to perhaps revisit some of those things. And our emphasis tonight has been about the Easter story and what is the significance of it. Now, it is at the heart of the gospel, and why is it at the heart of the gospel? And what is it that we take from this Easter story?
Okay, so in the people who dwelt in great darkness, upon them the light has shone, the light has come. John 9, the man born in darkness cannot see. No one can open his eyes. The light, see behind me? You see behind me, you've got a shadow. Okay? You've got light and darkness on this wall. That's not how it is in John 1. It says the light shines in the darkness. On earth we have light and darkness, and they're separate. The frame in John 1 is a frame only of light, and within the light are things that don't see the light. They're in darkness, but the light shines on them, through them, and out the other side. Nothing is hid from this light. There is no shade of turning. We are all bathed in, bathed through, shone through with the light of Christ. If I see it and understand it, I got eyes to see. And if I don't see it, I'm in darkness and I'm blind. You got it? There is no dualism. The frame is light. Light on through all, holding all together. Some see it, they're in light. Some don't see it, they're in darkness. There's only light. And they don't get it. Now there's another example. Jesus on earth, the supreme being on earth, God on earth, either 18 months or 3.5 years, depends how you read the feasts, if you're a Jewish scholar, how you play with it. How many disciples did he have at the crucifixion we're talking about, cheering him on? 1, John, and then they took off, right? How many disciples were in the upper room praying? 120. So, look, that's a really poor economic performance after 3.5 years. Come on. That's a really poor performance. I'm sorry, God, that's a really, really bad outcome.
So the EBIT ratio is pretty low.
Yeah, EBIT ratio is really bad. Okay, but then Jesus wasn't out to get disciples. He was getting a few. That wasn't his goal. His goal was to change the heart of humanity because we were blind and we couldn't see. We are, from John 1, we are made in and through and by the Word. And that which was made in him, it was life. In us is life, and this life is the light of men, and we still can't see it. The goodness of God is seen in creation, as it says in Romans 1, but we can't see it. It speaks mutely, we still can't hear it. God's light is shining in on it, and we don't get it. Where's the problem? The problem's us. So God himself steps into the picture to become one of us, to start what is called the new Adam. The work of Christ is about a new human race in him. The new Adam. The new birth. When Christ appeared in Mary, which was spoken of earlier, that's the rebirth of the human race in the new birth. And then he's rebirthed in the resurrection from the dead. And that's placed in us so that by the time you get to Acts 26, Jesus appears to the Apostle Paul, at that stage Saul, and his command, Acts 26, he's telling King Agrippa, because Paul doesn't tell us earlier, but he says, King Agrippa, Christ said to me, I'm sending you, this is our apostle to the Gentiles, I'm sending you to open their eyes, to turn them from darkness to light, the power of Satan to God. So what is going on in the crucifixion, the life, death, resurrection, ascension, crucifixion of Christ, is about changing us. It's aimed at us. It's aimed at our darkness. It's aimed at, according to the story of Nicodemus, unless you're born again, you won't see the kingdom of God. Unless you're born of the water and the Spirit, you won't enter it. It's not saying this is what you got to do. It's saying this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to rebirth you lot and pour my Spirit out on you, and then you're going to be able to see. It's not a command. This is what you've got to climb into. is saying what the Son of God was doing. And when he's on the cross, he's entering into my darkness. He's entering into my alienation. And we were blind. We couldn't see the Father. And Jesus is entering into this fully. He's entering fully into our darkness. Goes right into our darkness, the depths of our cross. And at the bottom he says, Father, into your hand I give my spirit. He goes right to the bottom of our darkness and sorts us out. He drops through it and sees the face of the Father. Right? When he cried, my God, why have you forsaken me? Remember, Jesus never cried God. He never prayed God. He prayed Father. He was quoting Psalm 22. And Psalm 22, at about verse 24, about there might be 35, it says, God has not forsaken him nor turned his face away from him. So don't play the God turned his face away from Jesus on the cross stuff. That's just rubbish. Read Psalm 22, especially the last bit.
It's the first line of the song, isn't it?
It's the first line of the song.
It's the first line of the song. So when Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me? It's like us quoting the first line of a hymn or the first line of a favourite song. He's really quoting the psalm. He's quoting the psalm, and that psalm is a wonderful story of God's redeeming love. It's a wonderful story of God's redeeming love. And I always take great encouragement from the disciples. I mean, the disciples are as thick as bricks, right? I love...
We're in good company.
We're in great company. We're in great company. I feel I am. And, Jesus has just fed the 5,000 and they're in the boat rowing across to the other shore because he wants a bit of space. And he starts to talk to them about the leaven of the Pharisees, right? And hypocrisy. And the disciples are going, didn't we bring any bread? Right? Is he upset because we didn't bring some bread? And you just think, well, hang on, guys. You just haven't got a clue. You haven't got a schmick, have you? And neither have we half the time. I mean, we're just as thick as bricks. And then there's this wonderful time when Jesus is on the road to Caesarea Philippi, and he's having a chat to the disciples, and he's asking them the question, who do people say that I am? And they give various answers about who they say Jesus is, and then he turns to Peter and he says to Peter, well, who do you say that I am? And Peter says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And yet this is the man who at the crucifixion denies Jesus 3 times. Right? 3 times he gets the straight question, aren't you one of his? Didn't I see you with him? No, it wasn't me. Right? So one of the other things that's going on with the crucifixion is there's an unveiling of our darkness that Bruce was talking about. There's an unveiling of our blindness. And here's this beautiful man called Peter, right? Just a wonderful human being, full of enthusiasm, full of excitement, full of in boots and furs. No, Lord, you shan't wash my feet, right? Well, if I don't wash your feet, you can't have any of me. Well, wash the lot of me, Lord, right? I mean, that's who Peter is, I'm all in, Lord. I want it all, right? And yet this crucifixion is such a devastating thing for Peter, right? I mean, he is God, right? Peter's got a revelation that this person he's talking to is God, and yet this person's going to die on a cross. So something incredible is happening in Peter, right? Peter's world is turning upside down, isn't it? It's just revolving inside him, right? I mean, you want a recipe for depression? Here it is, right? The whole thing's just spinning and spinning and spinning. What have I got myself into here, right? Do I want to die with this idiot, right? I mean, what's going on here? So the crucifixion brings to light something about us, doesn't it? Right? We talked about that a bit before, but the disciples reveal this to us very, very clearly. And yet at the same time it also reveals something of who Jesus is. And then we have this wonderful story after the resurrection that they've gone fishing, right? And, hey, they catch some fish and, it's Jesus on the beach, right? So Peter just over the side and swims in, right? And he gets in there, and a little while later they go for a bit of a walk on the beach. It's one of those ones where, I don't know, I've had a couple of walks on the beach. I remember a story when I was walking with my now wife, and she told me I was ruining her life. It wasn't my best walk on the beach, but nevertheless...
Tell me more.
I married her. She married me. But sometimes we have those walks. Maybe you don't have walks on the beach like that, but I remember that walk very well. It's traumatically embedded in my mind, and it wasn't what I wanted to hear. It wasn't what I wanted to hear. And Jesus is walking on the beach with Peter, and he says to Peter, "Peter, do you love me?" Well, what do you think Peter's... you just got to feel for this guy, don't you? Right? You've got to feel for this guy. He
said, build an empire.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. And he says, "Do you love me?" And Peter says, "Lord, you know I love you. You know I love you." And they walk a little bit, and Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." And then they walk a little bit further, and Jesus said, "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter says, "Lord, you know I love you. You know I love you. Come on now, don't push me any harder here. You know I love you." And Jesus says, "Feed my sheep." And then there's a third time, isn't there? Right? Now at this point in time, you're really thinking, hey, I'll go for a swim. Right? I don't really want to be standing next to this guy. Yeah? Because he's going to work me over yet again. Right? And he does. Right? Sometimes Jesus confronts us quite deeply. But beautifully. Peter, do you love me? Lord, you know I love you. Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. So it's a very beautiful revelation, not only of God here, is there, but there's a beautiful revelation of us as human beings, and there's a very beautiful revelation of how God interacts with us. Right? So it's possible. It's moving, is it? I haven't looked that up.
And the sheep and lamb thing's moving too.
Right. Okay, that sounds like a... So what was just said is that the word love is changing, is it? Yeah. Thank you. That the word for love is changing, and because there's 4 words for love in Greek, isn't there? So that would be great to follow up and know what they are. But anyway, I guess the thing is that there's a redemptive activity going on, isn't there? The cross has taken place, but that doesn't stop Jesus from acting redemptively, right?
Sorry, everybody.
Just had a little music.
Yeah, just on the sheep and lamb things, Ian.
Yeah.
Just tell you, I am. I'm avoiding the hot seat by being hyper-religious and driving it into intellectual Asperger's conversation. No, the issue is that he starts by being very strong, the word love, and then it downgrades. But it's really interesting. The first comment is, Peter, he says, "Do you love me?" very strongly. His thing is, he starts off with saying, he says, "Feed my lambs," the weak. Strong love, the lambs. Then, generally, tend my sheep. And then feed the sheep.
Thank you.
So the love, this is the opposite of building with the strong. The love is about going for the broken and the weak. Which is so it's my sarcastic comment earlier about, Peter, do you love me, build an empire? Which is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's this very beautiful redemptive activity on Christ's part, isn't there? And that is what we find today, right? I mean, it's not just at the cross where we're being redeemed, right? The Spirit comes to us every day, and it works on our hearts, our minds, our lives, our relationships, and it redeems us. It's constantly rebuilding us, making us new, and that's part of the great hope that we have as human beings. The great hope that we have as human beings is no more crying, no more tears. No more crying, no more tears.